Tonight, the developments continue to come in about a body found in a small Indiana lake.
The rain is behind us. Oh my God.
The pastor is nothing more than an innocent victim of an apparent stalking.
And there's lots of little caves. I'm not going up there.
I think Diego Campione is totally in the wrong, and I hope he burns in for all his sins.
The internet is full of unsettling content, but every so often, something surfaces that feels too real. These aren't scripted horror films or creepy short stories. These are real tapes, real recordings, footage that was never meant to be found, and yet, somehow, ended up online. Tonight, we're diving into 6 of the most disturbing cases of real found footage ever uncovered. Let's get straight into the first one. On November 6, 2013, a video quietly appeared on an obscure YouTube channel called Sandra 3000 KC. It was made by a 30-year-old woman named Teleka Patrick, a soft-spoken medical resident from Michigan. The clip lasted less than a minute.
It's Teleka.
And it was never meant for the world to see. Just one person, someone she called her lover. A heartfelt message meant to bridge a growing distance between them.
I got dressed up for you. And I bought flowers. Look. Flowers!
But the message was never received. The only person who ever watched it was Teleka herself. 4 days later, on November 10th, she posted a second video.
If you were here, this is what would be your plate.
Another emotional monologue. Another dedication to the same unnamed man. It too went unnoticed, slipping into the void of YouTube's algorithm and fading into the digital ether. But these forgotten videos wouldn't stay forgotten for long, because just weeks later, Teleka Patrick would vanish without a trace, and those cryptic emotional uploads would suddenly take center stage, becoming key evidence in what would become one of the internet's strangest and most unsettling mysteries. It all started on December 5th, 2013, a normal Thursday in Kalamazoo. Teleka spent the day working at the Borges Medical Center, where she was finishing her first year as a medical resident. Her co-workers described her as brilliant, focused, and fun to be around. She had a bright future, the kind you could see from a mile away. But that day, something felt off. When her shift ended, she asked a colleague for a ride to a local hotel, the Radisson, just a few miles from the hospital. The request seemed rushed, panicked almost. The co-worker agreed, concerned. When they arrived, security footage shows Teleka trying to rent a room, but being turned away. She'd left her wallet back at work and didn't have proper ID. At the front desk, employees noticed her behavior. She looked anxious, distracted. A receptionist gently asked if she was okay, but Teleka brushed it off, said she was fine. Moments later, she exited the building and stepped into the hotel's complimentary shuttle. She told the driver she needed to return to Borges to grab her wallet. But as the van pulled into the hospital parking lot, Teleka hesitated. She turned to the driver and said something strange. "I can't go back there with you." Then, without warning, she jumped out and took off, ducking between parked cars like she was hiding from someone. The driver watched her climb into her own car, a 1997 Lexus, and speed away into the night. He would be the last person to ever speak to her. What happened next felt like something out of a thriller. Teleka started driving erratically, swerving between cars at dangerously high speeds, almost like she was being chased. Other drivers on the road noticed and called the police. But before help could arrive, her front left tire blew out. The car veered off the highway and into a ditch, 100 miles from Kalamazoo. She stepped out of the vehicle, took her keys, and vanished.
911, exact location of your emergency. Just turn it now.
It's on I-94, the westbound lane. There's a car off the road down to the ditch.
Minutes later, police found her car abandoned on the side of the road. Inside were her personal belongings, phone, wallet, cash, but no sign of Teleka. Officers combed the area. They searched the woods, the shoreline of a nearby lake. Nothing. On December 6th, she was officially declared missing. Everyone who'd interacted with her that night said the same thing. She seemed scared, paranoid, like she was running from something no one else could see. Some suspected foul play. That someone had followed her, hunted her. Police brought in dogs to track her scent, and the results were chilling. The dogs followed her trail from the car to the side of the road, then stopped, as if someone had picked her up, voluntarily or not. To make things even more unsettling, investigators uncovered a strange phone call Teleka had made the night before she vanished. She'd phoned a man named James Davis, a gospel singer living in St. Louis. She told him she feared someone was trying to kill her, and that she was planning to leave Kalamazoo to come see him. That call was one of her final known communications, and it seemed to confirm what many feared, that she had been running, that her fears may have been real. The case exploded online. Missing posters, news reports, Reddit threads. Everyone wanted to know what had happened to the promising young doctor. But with no solid leads, the trail went cold. Except on the internet, a new trail had just begun. While digging into Teleka's online activity, investigators made a strange discovery. A YouTube channel under the name Sandra 3000 KC. It had 9 videos, all uploaded in early November, just 1 month before her disappearance. The most infamous of them was titled, My Awesome Day. In the video, Teleka sits alone in front of a camera, speaking tenderly to someone she calls Baby.
Hi, baby. Good night. It's Teleka. I am just coming to you to say hi and just to tell you about my day.
At one point, she pauses, touches her chest, and says,
Baby, I felt that.
Later, she breaks into song, not once, but several times, the kind of spontaneous singing that lasts almost the entire video.
And now I'm home, finally. Yes. Putting up a little bit of fight, it's alright.
Each upload follows a similar pattern. Long, emotional, and unscripted. They read like love letters. Intimate monologues directed at someone who never responded. Someone who might not have even known they existed. In one video, she hints at relationship troubles, says she's unsure where they stand.
I don't know what's going on, you know, in your life and stuff. I have an idea, but I don't know everything.
But still holds on to hope. She reassures him, whoever he is, that she's still deeply in love.
You do your best, and I do my best, and we give each other a chance.
She even films herself cooking elaborate meals, enough for 2 people, sets the table, smiles at the empty chair across from her, a dinner for someone who wasn't there, a love story that might have only existed in her mind. Or maybe not. As investigators combed through Teleka's videos, certain moments began to stand out. Moments that suggested this wasn't just a fantasy relationship. It seemed real. In one clip, she gestures toward a bouquet of flowers, smiling as she hints that they were given to her by him.
Here are all my raw materials. I don't even eat chicken. I'm vegetarian. But I want that for you. That's just potatoes so far. If you were here, this is what it would be your plate. Broccoli and tomatoes and peppers and cheese.
She doesn't name him, never does, but the implication is there. This is from when we went out, she says softly.
And here are the flowers from last time.
If true, it meant they'd seen each other recently, possibly even gone on a date in the days before the video was filmed. Taken as a whole, the videos don't initially feel disturbing. Strange? Yes. But more in the way that unfiltered love can be, raw and vulnerable. They showed a woman deeply in love, maybe going through a rough patch, maybe just stuck in a long-distance relationship. But they weren't threatening. They weren't cause for alarm, at least not until investigators started asking questions. When they spoke to Teleka's family and friends, a glaring red flag emerged. According to everyone who knew her, Teleka wasn't in a relationship at all.
Patrick's family issued this statement in response to the new video. To our knowledge, Teleka was not in a romantic relationship, and it's unclear to whom she is making reference in this video.
She was open, warm, talkative, the kind of person who shared her life with those around her. And yet, no one had ever heard her mention a boyfriend, which left investigators with a chilling question. If she was truly single, then who were these videos for?
Bye. I love you.
Who was this baby she kept talking to? And if they had met in person, like she claimed, how had no one known? As they reviewed the footage again and looked back at the way she had driven that night, as if she were running from something, a dark theory began to form. What if this wasn't just unrequited love? What if Teleka had gotten involved in something secret, something dangerous, and it had all gone wrong? The idea was chilling, but it wasn't implausible. And so, detectives kept digging, combing through every corner of her digital footprint, looking for the man she had been so devoted to. What they found next changed everything.
Yet another twist in the mystery of the missing Kalamazoo doctor.
Target 8 uncovered hundreds of tweets allegedly posted by Teleka Patrick in the weeks before she went missing.
Investigators had uncovered 5 Twitter accounts, all belonging to Teleka, each filled with thousands of tweets. And they were unlike anything anyone had expected. The posts were chaotic, rambling, often incoherent. It was like reading someone's unfiltered stream of consciousness, posted live to the internet. In many tweets, she seemed to be speaking to no one, asking things like, "Hi my friend, how are you?" or "Just woke up, sorry," but tagging no one, receiving no replies. The deeper investigators scrolled, the stranger things became. Just like in her YouTube videos, Teleka spent a lot of time referencing her mystery man. "I felt you a little bit yesterday. Hope you have a wonderful day. Love you." But unlike the videos, these tweets weren't just occasional. They were constant. Hundreds of them. Sometimes dozens in a day. When she didn't receive a response, she'd create a new account and keep going. Should I start another page? Let me know when you find her. Did you find me? I've been messaging you for 2 days from another Twitter account. It was obsessive, desperate, and growing darker by the day. And then, buried deep in the flood of tweets, a name started appearing. One of the only names she mentioned consistently. Marvin Sapp, a Grammy-nominated gospel singer, a well-known figure in the Christian music world, and according to Teleka, her soulmate. She tweeted at him repeatedly, "Marvin Sapp, good morning. When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Marvin Sapp, don't be sad. God never puts more on us than we can bear." All 3 messages were posted within 24 hours, and they weren't isolated. There were hundreds more. Sometimes she quoted his lyrics. Other times, she claimed the two shared a divine connection. Her posts were filled with longing and delusion. One tweet read, "I have relocated to be with you, so I really hope you want me, so we can be in love and get married and have a couple babies." Another, "As you may or may not know, I attempted to visit you yesterday." The evidence was disturbing. It painted a new picture, one where Teleka's relationship may have never existed outside her own mind. But here's the twist. Marvin Sapp did know who she was, not because of any romantic connection, but because she'd been harassing him for months. It started in early 2013. She began tweeting at him, cryptically at first, claiming they were spiritually married. When that didn't get a response, she reached out to his children. Her behavior grew increasingly erratic and increasingly alarming. Eventually, she packed up her life in California and moved across the country to Kalamazoo, where Marvin Sapp lived, where his church was, where she showed up at his house in the middle of the night. Sapp filed for a restraining order, cited more than 400 pages of unwanted messages. She was banned from his church, told to stay away, but she didn't. Instead, she slipped deeper into delusion. She believed Marvin Sapp was still with her, telepathically, that they were connected, that their love was real. By December, her tweets had taken a dark spiritual turn. She began writing about demons. On December 4th, she posted, "You reach me through a demonic portal that gives demons power over me and dilutes my spiritual authority. Please understand, I must protect myself spiritually." That was one of the last things Teleka Patrick ever wrote. The very next day, she began systematically erasing her digital footprint, deleting tweets, wiping her accounts clean, and then she vanished alongside a cold Michigan roadside. The discovery of her Twitter accounts added a new, unsettling layer to the case. And for many, it pointed to one unavoidable truth. At the time of her disappearance, Teleka was likely in the middle of a severe psychotic break. But that still left one pressing question unanswered. What actually happened to her that night? 3 theories would begin to circulate. The first, that she'd run into the woods, fleeing someone, or something, that wasn't really there. That her fear, though deeply real to her, was only a symptom of her delusions, and that she had ultimately succumbed to hypothermia. After all, Michigan winters are merciless. The second theory was more optimistic, that she had simply decided to walk away, that she left her belongings behind, flagged down a passing car, and started a new life somewhere far away. A clean slate. And the third, the darkest of all, was that she had been followed. That someone was waiting for her that night. And when she pulled over, they seized the opportunity. After all, that's exactly where police dogs had lost her trail.
Later, a bloodhound tracked her scent directly from the car to the side of the road, and from there, the trail goes cold.
Some even speculated about the man she'd been so fixated on, Marvin Sapp. By now, he knew about her behavior. He was concerned, protective of his family. It wasn't hard for some to imagine a scenario where he might have taken matters into his own hands, or that someone close to him had. Others whispered about a secret affair, a real relationship gone bad, one that could have jeopardized his career if it ever went public. And Teleka, spiraling, could have threatened to expose it. It was a motive. And with his fame, he certainly had the resources. But this theory never gained ground. Police were firm. Marvin Sapp was never a suspect.
The pastor is nothing more than an innocent victim of an apparent stalking.
They believed he was a victim of stalking, nothing more. There was one other man people wondered about, Teleka's ex-husband, Ismael Calderon. The two had been married for 4 years before divorcing in 2011. After their split, Teleka had accused him of emotional and verbal abuse on an online forum, which led some to wonder whether he might have tried to silence her. But like Sapp, Calderon was never named a suspect. Investigators found no evidence of involvement. In fact, the only person police seriously looked into was James Davis, the friend she had called the night before her disappearance. He was the last person to speak with her, the one she told, "Someone's trying to kill me." But Davis lived hours away in St. Louis, and after a thorough investigation, he was cleared of any wrongdoing. He was just a concerned friend. And so, no suspects, no body, no solid clues. Speculation was all anyone had, at least until April 3rd, 2014.
Tonight, the developments continue to come in about a body found in a small Indiana lake.
This was not the answer anyone wanted. Investigators are certain the body found in an Indiana lake is that of Teleka Patrick.
It wasn't the outcome anyone hoped for, but it was an answer. Nearly 3 months after she vanished, a fisherman spotted something floating in the water at Lake Charles, not far from where Teleka's car had been abandoned. An autopsy confirmed the body was hers. The cause of death: drowning. No bruises, no wounds, no signs of trauma. Investigators pieced together a theory that Teleka, suffering from a manic episode, had believed she was being hunted. That when her tire blew, she panicked, truly believing someone was coming for her. So she ran. In the darkness, without a flashlight, she may have accidentally sprinted straight into Lake Charles. The water that night was near freezing. Hypothermia could have set in almost instantly, and as temperatures dropped, the surface froze over, hiding her body in ice. By the time search teams combed the area, she was already beneath the surface, entombed in the lake just a few hundred feet from her car. Her online videos and tweets, once considered evidence of foul play, were now seen as signs of a mind in crisis. Law enforcement ultimately concluded that the case was not a criminal one, but a mental health tragedy, that her death was a tragic accident brought on by untreated illness. But not everyone accepted that answer. Teleka's family raised troubling questions, like the fact that her scent trail, the one followed by the police dogs, didn't lead toward the lake, but away from it, directly to the road, the opposite direction. And then there was the lake itself, Lake Charles, small, shallow, so unremarkable that it doesn't even appear on Google Maps. It had been searched multiple times, once the night she vanished, twice again with sonar. Each time, authorities found nothing, which raised an uncomfortable possibility. Had her body been there all along, or had it been placed there later? Some believed she'd been taken elsewhere, and her body dumped later, staged to look like an accident. And then there was the hardest question of all. What had triggered her breakdown in the first place? Something must have happened. Some catalyst, a threat, a message, a confrontation. But according to everyone who saw her that day, nothing unusual had occurred. Her phone revealed no clues either. No calls, no texts. Nothing that might have sparked her final spiral. The family, unconvinced by the initial autopsy, requested a second. That exam confirmed the cause of death as drowning, finding water in her nasal cavity, consistent with inhalation prior to death. With that, the case was officially closed. One investigator put it simply, "I do believe it's probably as solved as it's going to get." And yet, so many questions remain. If that caught you off guard, the next story will leave you speechless. On the afternoon of May 31st, 2013, the air over El Reno, Oklahoma felt heavy. Thick clouds gathered above the flat horizon, and the haunting wail of tornado sirens echoed through the streets. People knew the drill. Take cover, stay alert. Meteorologists were warning of something rare, the possibility of a multiple vortex tornado forming nearby. Most locals were worried, but for a certain group of people, this was exactly the kind of event they lived for. Storm chasers from all across the country had made their way into Oklahoma that week, hoping to catch a glimpse of nature at its most violent. Among them was a 3-man team of experienced professionals: 55-year-old Tim Samaras, his 24-year-old son Paul, and their longtime partner, 45-year-old Carl Young. These weren't thrill seekers with a camera. They were scientists, cautious, methodical. They'd spent years chasing storms, collecting high-speed footage and atmospheric data. And for 3 seasons, they'd starred in the Discovery Channel series Storm Chasers, helping viewers understand what went on inside the heart of a twister. By the time May 31st rolled around, the trio had already been in the area for days. studying the weather.
Oh, I'd say this is the one.
Oh yeah. This is going to be the storm of the day right here. This is going to do it, I think.
They'd seen dozens of tornadoes in their career. They knew the risks. They knew how to stay safe. But nothing could have prepared them for what was coming. That evening, just after 6 p.m., a tornado touched down near El Reno. It was initially classified as an EF3, strong but manageable for a seasoned team like theirs. The plan was to trail it from a safe distance, like they'd done so many times before. But something was different this time.
The rain is behind us. Oh my God.
Within minutes, the storm grew unstable. It shifted. It spun harder. What started as an EF3 was suddenly upgraded to an EF5, the most severe rating a tornado can get. But even that didn't tell the full story. This twister was massive. By the time it finished growing, it stretched 2.6 miles across, the widest tornado ever recorded. Wind speeds were measured at 313 miles per hour. For comparison, that's faster than the takeoff speed of a commercial airliner. And it wasn't just big, it was unpredictable, violent. It changed direction without warning. Tim, Paul, and Carl were trying to parallel the tornado, keeping a safe vantage point. But the twister veered unexpectedly, straight toward their car. They tried to outrun it, tried to reposition, but it was too late. The tornado caught them. Their vehicle was picked up and thrown like a toy across the landscape. When the storm finally passed, rescuers found what was left of their car, crushed down to just 60% of its original size. Tim's body was still strapped inside. Paul and Carl had been thrown half a mile in opposite directions. All three had died instantly. Later, amid the wreckage, a camera was recovered. Somehow it was still intact, still recording. The footage has never been released publicly. No leaks, no viral clips. But a handful of people close to the team have seen it, including a friend named Gabe Garfield. According to Gabe, the final moments were quiet. Carl had noticed how strangely calm the air felt, that eerie stillness that sometimes comes before disaster. Tim answered, "Actually, we're in a bad spot." Then, just before the video cut out, he added one last line, "We're going to die." Today, the story of Tim, Paul, and Carl isn't just a tragedy, it's a reminder that even the most skilled storm chasers, with years of experience and the best equipment, are still at the mercy of nature's unpredictability. And that sometimes, even with all the right moves, you still don't make it out. Think that was wild? What comes next is even more unbelievable.
I'm looking for a cave that I found, and I didn't have a sidearm when I was here before. And it's shaped like a big M. It's a big cave that looks just like a gigantic M. And something about that cave just spooked me. Out of all the caves I've ever gone in, this one just made my body vibrate. The closer I got to it, the crazier my body felt. And I was like, all right, I'm not gonna go in there right now, but I'm coming back someday.
Kenny Veach's story has been told 100 times by now. But recently, something new surfaced. A piece of footage, a blurry figure, maybe a sighting, that has people asking if we've been looking in the wrong place all along. Kenny wasn't just some random hiker. He was an explorer, the kind of guy who wandered deep into the Mojave Desert just for fun. He had a YouTube channel called Snake Bit McGee, where he posted videos of his hikes, gear, reviews, and just kind of his life. He lived in Vegas and spent most of his free time roaming the rugged terrain near Area 51.
And then there's lots of little caves, but they're not the kind of cave I'm looking for. And then there's caves like that. I'm not going up there.
His love for hiking the Mojave and crawling through its abandoned mine shafts and caves eventually led him to something strange. Something he called the M Cave. Kenny was really into UFOs. He followed channels like Serious Disclosure, run by Dr. Stephen Greer, one of the main voices in the UFO community, trying to push the government into telling us what's really going on. One video in particular caught his attention. It was about experimental energy research supposedly going on at Area 51.
Project that he had worked on when they had tested a device that was supposed to be a new type of energy source. It had organic components and organic, almost like it had a consciousness. And it had literally blown up when they tried to activate it and they tried to turn it on.
After watching it, Kenny went straight to the comments section to talk about something weird he experienced while hiking near Nellis Air Force Base, not too far from Area 51.
This ain't nothing. I'm a long-distance hiker, and one time during one of my hikes out by Nellis Air Force Base, I found a hidden cave. The entrance to the cave was shaped like a perfect capital M. I always enter every cave I find, but as I began to enter this particular cave, my whole body began to vibrate. The closer I got to the cave entrance, the worse the vibrating became. Suddenly, I became very scared and hightailed it out of there. That was one of the strangest things that ever happened to me.
People jumped on his comment pretty fast. Some said he was hallucinating. Others asked why he hadn't filmed it. Like, if you really found a cave that made your body vibrate, why wouldn't you record it? Kenny replied, saying he didn't bring his camera that day. But the cave was real, and he was going back.
There are many caves. I have been in hundreds of them, but this one particular cave was beyond anything I've ever encountered. Someday I'll go back and I'll bring my camera and a weapon with me. All I had at the time was a knife and a wrist rocket.
True to his word, he packed a gun, a camera, and headed back out, determined to find the cave again.
I'm looking for a cave that I found, and I didn't have a sidearm when I was here before, and something about that cave just spooked me. Out of all the caves I've ever gone in, this one just made my body vibrate. The closer I got to it, the crazier my body felt, and I was like, all right, I'm not gonna go in there right now, but I'm coming back someday. And I talked to some people on YouTube, and I told them, hey, I'm coming out here, you know, because they kind of called my hand on it.
At the beginning of Kenny's search for the cave, he seemed confident that he could locate it once again.
I'm in a big giant creek bed right now, and I haven't come to the area where the cave is. So it's along here somewhere. The kind of cave I'm looking for is deep, and it's dark, and it's shaped like it's shaped just like the letter M. So lots of little caves and stuff along here, and it's about level with the ground, like in an area like this. So I really got to keep my eyes peeled because I don't want to pass it.
However, after hours of hiking, Kenny lost confidence in his ability to find it.
Well, I did not find the cave. That is so weird. I mean, I thought for sure I was just gonna be able to find it. I remember it being fairly easy. Who knows?
He sounded disappointed, but still, he posted the video, said he'd try again soon. People in the comments were supportive. A few even claimed they believed him, which prompted Kenny to reply, saying,
I'm going again this weekend. I will be hiking solo for 3 days. I plan on covering about 40 miles. I will cross through the same canyon where I found the cave. If I don't find it again, I will just continue hiking over mountain after mountain to the north of the canyon.
Then, someone left a strange comment. It said, no, do not go back there. If you find the cave entrance, don't go in. If you do, you won't get out. Kenny replied, what makes you say that? No answer. On November 10th, 2014, just 1 month after his first search, Kenny left for another trip. He packed enough supplies for 3 days, but he never came back. His ex-girlfriend, Sharon Pilgrim, reported him missing. A week later, on November 17th, search and rescue found Kenny's car parked at the edge of the desert. He'd told people his route, which helped. One of the landmarks? A deep mine shaft, the same one seen at the start of his last video, near that shaft. They found his phone. They dropped a camera down, thinking maybe he'd fallen in. Nothing. They brought in helicopters, searched the canyons, cliffs, and washes. No footprints, no backpack, no body, nothing. As the news spread, theories started pouring in. Some said he found a secret government tunnel and was silenced. Sounds like a stretch. But here's the thing. The US government owns 86% of Nevada. Area 51 is just the center of a huge, mostly closed-off patch of land. If there were underground tunnels, we wouldn't know. And if there weren't, you still wouldn't want to find out. Try Googling the mountains between Area 51 and the nearby base known as S4. You'll find what looks like hangar doors built into the rock, right in a restricted zone. That's exactly the kind of thing Bob Lazar described seeing when he worked at those facilities.
There's this facility that is at S4. It's in the side of a mountain. And normally we had pulled in with the bus and gone around the front through a normal double door. This time that I went in, there were hangar doors open. I went in through the hangar door, and in the hangar door was the disc, the flying saucer that I worked on. I saw it sitting there, and we walked by it. It had a little American flag stuck on the side, and I thought, oh my God, this finally explains all the flying saucer stories. This is just an advanced fighter.
Now, Kenny was hiking about 64 miles from that spot, which, yeah, is a long way. But it doesn't matter. The land around Area 51 is all monitored. Black helicopters, unmarked trucks, motion sensors. If Kenny had wandered too close, someone would have known. Still, that hasn't stopped people from looking. One YouTuber, from the channel Exploring Abandoned Mines, claimed to have found the cave, based on tips from a friend in the military. He found some old planks, a bottle, and white scratch marks along the cave walls. Nothing that weird, until he spotted a sign.
Okay, Area 51, restricted area, no trespassing, use of deadly force authorized. Well, I think it's time for me to get out of here.
It read, Area 51 Restricted Zone. Looks spooky, but there's a catch. Real signs at Area 51 don't say Area 51. They just say Restricted Area, no trespassing. And that exact sign, you can buy it online. Novelty gift. So, yeah. Then there's another guy, Sean Horlicker. He retraced Kenny's steps and found a cave with an M-shaped entrance. It looked like someone had sealed it with rocks. He stuck his camera into a small opening. And yeah, there was space behind the wall. Even stranger, the rocks were a different color from everything else around. It looked intentional, like someone had covered it up. Sean noticed a seam running along the bottom, like it had been blocked off manually.
You have this seam that's running. It's almost like this is like a foundation almost. And then this is all like a straight line, and it's got this white stuff in here.
Which lines up with what Kenny said in his original MK video.
It's about level with the ground, like in an area like this.
He mentioned that the cave was level with the ground, in an area that looked just like that. So, is that the cave? Maybe. But with Kenny gone, there's no way to know. As time passed, the story only got stranger. Sharon, his ex, later said Kenny had been dealing with depression. A year before disappearing, he quit his job and tried inventing full-time. But nothing worked. He tried selling his house. He even offered himself as a live-in caretaker for strangers. When police searched his home, they found his camera and a document on his computer where he'd typed, "Help me," over and over again. Some think he went into the desert to end his life. But his sister-in-law, Susan Veach, disagrees.
When his dad died, we talked about quite a bit. That was against everything Kenny believed in. So my thought was, well, he went out to the mine, he laid his phone down, Because I've had theories of people saying, oh, aliens took him, or he was abducted by the military. So are you going to tell me that the military would go out to the middle of the desert and find him at the only landmark that's out there? I mean, that mine is there, and it's a landmark. And that's where his phone is. That phone was meant to be found. Because if Kenny did not want it to be found, he would have just tossed it out in the middle of the desert and went on his merry way. But that's not happened. That phone was meant to be found there. And it was meant to give the impression that he fell down that abandoned mine.
She believes Kenny faked his death and is still alive. And then came something weird. On July 15, 2018, someone broke into a spiritual healing center in Las Vegas. It was owned by Kenny's sister. In the footage, a man runs behind the counter and grabs an iPad like he knew exactly where it was. Susan says it's Kenny. He looks like him. He even grabs his knee and falls, which matters, because Kenny once injured his knee hiking and had to be rescued by helicopter. This is what Susan had to say on the footage.
I've known Kenny since he was 18.
Susan pointed to that moment as proof. She's convinced he's still alive. 10 years have passed since Kenny Veach was last seen. That was until someone spotted Kenny hiking all alone in the desert.
Pull up to this guy that looks like Kenny Veach.
A YouTube channel called Driven Adventure uploaded a video titled Kenny Veach Found, almost 10 years later in Nevada desert. So this YouTuber's just out driving through the White River Narrows. This is about 86 miles from where Kenny was last seen near the mine shaft. And off in the distance, he spots someone hiking alone. And right away, he notices something strange. The guy looks exactly like Kenny Veach. He pulls over, gets out, asks if the man needs help.
Sure you don't need nothing?
I'm so good, dude.
Are you sure?
I'm parked on the side of the road like half a mile ahead.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I do appreciate it.
Okay, you're good with water and food?
Literally tons of it in this bag.
Okay, man.
I'm from around here, so I'm all good.
Okay.
Right on.
All right, bud. Take care. Be careful.
Hey, you too.
They talk for a bit, and then something even weirder happens. The man's voice. It sounds almost identical to Kenny's. The YouTuber recorded the encounter and put together a side-by-side voice comparison. Take a listen and decide for yourself.
All over the place. Now I can spend about 20 minutes just walking around and collecting these, and I'll put them all in my bag. And when I get home, I'll have a nice treat.
I'm so good, dude. I'm parked on the side of the road like half a mile ahead. Literally tons of it in this bag. I do appreciate it, though. I'm from around here, so I'm all good. Right on. Hey, you too.
It looks like him. It sounds like him. But then, Susan Veach, Kenny's sister-in-law, saw the video, and she shut it down. She commented, "Sorry, it's not him. The voice is close, but that's not how Kenny walks. And he's built differently." So, was it just a random hiker, or something more? And where does that leave us? On one side, you've got Sharon, who thinks Kenny was overwhelmed and took his own life. On the other, Susan, who's convinced he's still out there, maybe hiding, maybe watching. But either way, we still don't know what really happened to Kenny Veach. That was bizarre enough, but the next twist might be the strangest of all. On November 17, 2010, the National Post released a video unlike anything they'd ever published before. It wasn't a documentary. It wasn't a news interview. It was raw, unfiltered found footage, chilling in both its content and its calmness. It would come to be known as the Elaine Campione tapes, and to this day, it remains one of the most disturbing pieces of footage ever released to the public. The tapes had been filmed 4 years earlier, on October 2nd, 2006, in Ontario, Canada.
Hi, Serena. It's August 8th, 2006. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Serena. Happy birthday to you. Serena's 3 today. Yay! What do you think, Sophia? You sing happy birthday? No? I'm 3. You're 3 today. Yay! Shall we go to the living room and see if you've got any birthday presents from the birthday fairies? Yes! Okay, let's go.
They start off unremarkable. A quiet moment in a small apartment. A mother, Elaine, gently singing happy birthday to her daughter Serena, who was turning 3 years old that day. She smiles. She gives her a small pink bicycle. There's laughter, a little girl's voice in the background. For a moment it feels wholesome, like any other home video. But then, something shifts. Out of nowhere, her tone changes. She talks about Serena's father, a man named Leo, and says something that completely changes the atmosphere.
Yes, this is a deplorable, horrible, messy, filthy apartment that supposedly my 2 children and I live in, and it's just a horrible, horrible mess. Yeah. I think Diego Campione is totally in the wrong, and I hope he burns in hell for all his sins. The same as Leonardo. All I wanted to do was take care of my 2 little girls and live happily ever after the 3 years of physical, emotional, and mental abuse that I endured tremendously by Leonardo Campione, and then the past year from Anna and Diego Campione, the mental and emotional abuse, which wouldn't stop, and I had CAS keep bringing these 2 people into my life over and over again when I kept telling them the amount of mental and emotional abuse it was causing my 3-year-old daughter Serena and I and Sophia. It was horrible and uncalled for, and I want justice to my family for what they've all done to us. I cried out for help. They should have charged him for the assaults he did to me, the assaults he did to my oldest daughter Serena, and they did nothing for us.
She claims that while she was pregnant, Leo kicked her in the stomach, and that after both Serena and her younger sister Sophia were born, the abuse didn't stop. According to Elaine, Leo assaulted her repeatedly, sometimes in front of the girls. Between April 2004 and June 2005, Leo Campione was charged with 4 counts of assault, 1 death threat, and a count of bodily harm. Elaine also reported that he once hit Serena while she was sitting in her high chair, hard enough to make her lips swell and bleed. But despite these serious charges, Leo was released on a $10,000 bond. Elaine told the courts that Leo controlled every aspect of her life, restricting her phone calls, isolating her from her mother, and monitoring everything she did. Eventually, she felt she had no choice but to leave. She filed for divorce and requested custody of the children. She said it would be safest to move back to her parents' home in New Brunswick with the girls, but the court denied her request. Since Leo was only allowed supervised visits, moving that far would prevent him from seeing the children at all, and the law prioritized his access. So Elaine stayed in Ontario. At some point, Elaine's mother came to visit, concerned about her daughter's well-being. What she saw disturbed her. Elaine was paranoid, anxious. She kept saying someone was going to take her girls away. This fear, whether born from trauma, delusion, or both, eventually spiraled out of control. And then came the unthinkable.
And you can have it your way. Your wife and your daughters are dead now. We're all in heaven. I tried to overdose.
Elaine made a decision. She filled the bathtub, and one by one, she held her daughters underwater. 3-year-old Serena, 19-month-old Sophia, both drowned. Later in that same video, Elaine turns the camera back on herself. She appears emotionless as she explains what she did. She even confesses that she tried to take her own life afterward by overdosing, but she woke up. She survived, and within hours, she was arrested. On November 15, 2010, Elaine Campione was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder. The jury acknowledged her ongoing mental health struggles, but concluded that she understood her actions were wrong. She was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 25 years. To this day, the Elaine Campione tapes are studied as both legal evidence and a harrowing psychological case. But to most people, there's something else entirely. A haunting record of how deep fear and paranoia can twist a human mind, and how behind the mask of a smile, something unimaginable can be hiding. That was unsettling, but the next one is on a whole different level of disturbing. The following dashcam footage was captured inside the vehicle of Uber driver Christina Spuzza. While no graphic visuals are shown, I want to warn you, the story behind it is deeply unsettling. 38-year-old mother of 4, Christina Spuzza, was working late-night Uber rides on February 10, 2022, when 22-year-old Calvin Crew used his girlfriend's phone to request a ride. Christina accepted and picked him up. As he got into the car, he was wearing a suspicious mask that covered his entire face, leaving only his glowing eyes visible. She greeted him politely, but Calvin didn't respond, or if he did, it was likely just an inaudible grunt.
Hi, Renea. How are you today?
Despite his silence, Christina remained courteous, asking a few minutes later how his day was going.
Did you have a good day today?
However, not long after, Calvin subtly looked around to make sure no one was watching. Then, he lifted his mask slightly, pulled out a gun, and pointed it at Christina while threatening her.
Keep driving. I'm sorry?
Keep driving.
You've got to be joking.
Keep driving.
What are you doing?
This is a gun. Keep driving.
No, it's not. Stop. Come on, man. I got a family. What are you doing?
I got a family too. Now drive.
What are you doing?
Drive.
Please stop.
Drive the car, miss.
Why
Just
are you
drive.
doing this?
Don't make this so noticeable. Just drive.
Why are you doing this?
Just drive the car.
To where?
Complete the trip.
I cannot do that.
Complete the trip.
Why are you doing this?
Complete the trip.
He ordered her to cancel the ride so it could no longer be tracked. Shortly after, he grabbed her phone and attempted to access her banking apps, transferring money to his girlfriend's phone.
Please.
Then, he reached for the GoPro camera and tossed it out the window. As he did, he tried to reassure her, saying, "Everything will be fine if you just do what I say."
Do what I say and everything will be alright.
2 days later, an Amazon driver discovered Christina's body in the woods, about 50 feet off the road. She had been killed with a single gunshot to the head. Investigators later found her dashboard camera along the route of her final Uber ride. The footage provided all the evidence needed to convict Calvin of her murder. Prosecutors are now seeking the death penalty. Did you find these 5 cases disturbing? Then brace yourself for the last disturbing case. On the morning of May 11, 2011, a 6-year-old boy named Timothy Pitzen was pulled out of school in Aurora, Illinois. His mom, Amy, had just shown up out of nowhere. She told the staff there was a family emergency. No one really knew what to say. She seemed off, but not in an obvious way. Just not herself. Still, it was his mom, so they let him go. Figured it was probably nothing. But it wasn't nothing. What happened over the next 3 days would turn into one of the strangest missing child cases in the country. A case that's still unsolved, over a decade later. As soon as they left the school, Timothy was excited. He loved being with his mom. She told him they were going on a little trip together, just the two of them. First, they went to a zoo, then a water park. It felt like a surprise vacation. They checked into hotels, ate out, and laughed. Everything seemed normal, or at least it probably felt that way to Timothy. But behind the scenes, Amy wasn't just taking her son on a fun road trip. She was dodging calls, avoiding family. She kept calling home, sure, but always cheerful, always vague. And she never let Timothy speak to anyone. "He's fine, he's having fun," she'd say. But no one ever heard his voice, not once. At one point, she checked into a hotel, alone. No sign of Timothy, no explanation. Just one night without him. She also bought a few odd things from a hardware store, like a notebook and a pen. Not exactly road trip essentials. More like she was preparing for something or stalling for time. Each stop added another layer to the mystery. The calls stayed upbeat, but the choices got weirder. Why wouldn't she let anyone speak to Timothy? Why did she keep moving? And then, it stopped. On May 14th, 3 days after she picked him up from school, Amy checked into a motel in Rockford, Illinois, alone. Timothy wasn't with her. The next morning, she was found dead in her room. A suicide. But it's what she left behind that changed everything. Next to her body was a handwritten note. It said, Timothy was safe, that he was with people who would care for him. But it also said something else, something chilling. He's safe. You will never find him. That one sentence flipped the entire case upside down. Police started digging into her car. They found traces of Timothy's blood. Not a lot, but enough to raise red flags. They checked GPS data, retraced her entire trip, re-watched every bit of hotel security footage. Amy was seen alone, sometimes with Timothy. But after that last night, nothing. Whatever happened to him happened sometime before she died. There were signs she had driven through remote areas, dirt roads, grassy paths, places off the grid. Search teams scoured fields, forests, even isolated parks. Nothing. Meanwhile, Timothy's face was everywhere. News reports, posters, social media. A little boy with a bright smile and no answers. His dad, Jim Pitzen, went public, hoping someone knew something. He said he believed the note, that his son was out there, somewhere, still alive. But not everyone agreed. Some people thought Amy had lied, that the note was just a way to cover something darker, that she hadn't handed Timothy off to anyone, because there was no one else. Then, 8 years later, something strange happened. A teenager showed up in Kentucky claiming he was Timothy Pitzen. Said he'd escaped a basement after years of being held captive. The story made headlines. For a brief moment, it felt like the case had been solved. But DNA tests came back. He wasn't Timothy. Just another twist, another dead end. To this day, no one knows what really happened. No one knows if Timothy is alive, or if he ever made it past that third day. Some think Amy gave him to someone, that she planned it all, that she wanted to keep him safe from something we still don't understand. Others think it was just a lie, a way to vanish him, forever.
You can't give up hope. As soon as you give up hope, then what should I do? What, declare him dead? He's probably in the middle of nowhere, being homeschooled someplace, just away from the media and TVs and new technology.
That's all for today, folks. If you want to see more of this creepy content, click on the video on screen.